Dr. Niaura, let's talk Health Canada and the flavor ban, the potential flavor ban here. I mean, that pretty much, it looks like it's going to be hard to stop. From your position out in there in New York and looking at what's happening in Canada, what do you think?
Well, again, it seems to me that the process or whatever's going on up there has somehow been corrupted. And I'm not naming names or anything, and I don't have any deep knowledge. That's just my perception. It seemed to me that Canada was on a pretty good track, science-based track, and then something happened along the way where, whoever is in charge of these things got cold feet. You probably know better than I do. So that's one question I have. And then two, I guess, is, what recourse do people have to address what's going on and perhaps what's about to happen? These restrictions, I think, are a prelude to trying to ban these products outright and, ban them from the marketplace 100%. That's my sense. That's my point of view. So in a sense, what's happening in Canada is similar to what's happening in a lot of other places. But why the turnaround? Why, what happened to, the leadership, the bureaucrats, the functionaries that were pretty much on board with tobacco harm reduction and now seem to be, going in the other direction? First of all, vaping is also going down. Second of all, this data, does not support the idea that there's a gateway, because if people are vaping and becoming smokers, we'd see those numbers, shoot up dramatically, and they haven't. They've continued to go down. So, where are you left with that? Well, it bothers me that kids are using, nicotine, which is a drug. Fair point. Okay. But what do we do about it? Well, their response is, well, we should ban it. Okay. And then we come back to the argument, who are really using these products? It's adult smokers and former smokers. So then if we ban it, what's going to happen? And unfortunately, we're seeing some, recent data suggesting, where there have been severe restrictions placed on, e-cigarettes, flavor bans, and that sort of thing, the smoking rates are going back up. And so, is this what the tobacco control community wants? And it would be okay as long as we, dropped youth use down to, zero. And that's the dilemma.
It's a bit perplexing. Let me show you, I've just thrown up on the screen in Nicotine and Tobacco Research, an article, Reactions to Sales Restrictions on Flavored Vape Products or All Vape Products Among Young Adults in the U.S. And this was just published at the end of July. And basically it says that they've looked at the 2020 data that we've just been talking about, and they examined support for e-cigarette sales restrictions among e-cigarette users, perceived impact of flavored vape product and all vape product sales restrictions on e-cigarette and e-cigarette use. The results, if vape product sales were restricted to tobacco flavors, 39% of users reported being likely to continue using e-cigarettes, but over 30%, 33.2%, said they were likely to switch back to smoking.
Right. So isn't that concerning? It is to me. So that's, troubling. But then you have to think about, well, what's the evidence that, a flavor ban is going to actually achieve the goal of suppressing or preventing youth vaping? What's the evidence?
It seems to be an assumption that if you only leave very disgusting tasting e-juice on the market, it would act as some form of a teen repellent.
As a scientist, I have to ask, well, okay, you know, is there any behavioral evidence that this is true? You know, have you asked people what they think will happen? Have you done modeling studies to look at this, you know, hypothesized effect? Where's the rigor in the thought process, and hopefully backed up by as much science as possible? That's my question. If you're going to convince me, say I'm a policymaker, I would think that I'd want to know that. You know, it's hard to know what to do, except, of course, you know, calling out misinformation and the misinformers when it's important, and then, you know, sticking to the truth as best as we know it. And you know, and again, this gets back to the issue of communication. Who communicates to the Canadian public, and how? You know, and again, being here in the U.S., I don't know what the environment, you know, the information environment is like. You know, in the U.S., it's no surprise that, you know, the talking points that legislators, politicians put out there are almost verbatim what, you know, the CTFK puts out. So, you know, they don't write these things themselves. They just regurgitate what's given to them. And so I'm wondering if the same sort of thing has happened and is happening with Health Canada. And that's not to say that it's not a good idea to do, you know, a second look at marketing and advertising and access and those sorts of controls. You know, nobody's saying that that's, you know, shouldn't be done. I think we all agree that you know, those kinds of measures, you know, could easily be in place. The other thing that strikes me is, you know, now that the world is really in a place where commerce and information is on a different level than it used to be, it's going to be much easier to verify, you know, identity and age and things like that, and much easier to just block, you know, access to products like this. And there's a lot of technology out there that can be very good at doing this. Why isn't the government, you know, putting more effort into, you know, looking at those potential solutions?
Health Canada, in its flavor ban, has said no sugar added to any e-liquids, no artificial sweeteners. Says actually in the regulations that if there is a pleasant taste, then it's in contravention then of the new flavor ban.
Well, why don't they just put poison in the products? You know, I mean, didn't we go through this with alcohol at some point? You know, and what about cannabis, right? Are we going to do this with cannabis products? You know, there's so much kind of inconsistency. But to get back to your point, you know, Canada is a party to the Framework Convention on Tobacco, right? So that's something that I do sympathize with, in the sense that, you know, WHO has some sort of, you know, power or sway over Canada. But you know, I would say in this instance, they really need to stand up and sort of say, you know, push the pause button, and let's take another closer look at what the science is really telling us. And, you know, why did they approve these products in the first place? Kind of like go back to that.